this is the final couple phases of the war. So we're going to deal with the war in the West. Now, Union General Grant had been sent out to the West to conquer those areas of Tennessee to open up a path, and then out to the Mississippi to conquer the control of the Mississippi River. Okay? So he's going to head out through Tennessee. He's going to conquer Fort Donelson and Fort Henry first. Not a problem. Does it pretty smoothly. Not a big deal. And that's going to open up the way for the eventual invasion of Georgia. Now, Sherman is going to take care of that. We're going to talk about that later. So that is the beginning. Now, Shiloh, the Battle of Shiloh, is a pretty big deal. That's going to happen on April 6th and 7th, 1862. And that's going to be in southwest Tennessee. And the Union general is going to be Grant, and the Confederates are going to put two generals up against him, A.J. Johnston and Pierre G.T. Beauregard. We've seen these two guys in action earlier in the war. They were hanging around Bull Run and so forth, and they got transferred to the West to handle Grant because they knew, the Confederacy knew they needed some big guns out there to handle General Grant. The Confederates meant to surprise General Grant at Shiloh, and that didn't work so well. Grant was ready for them, and it gets to be a really bloody battle. Union reinforcements are going to help the Union win the day. It is the bloodiest battle to date, okay, these 2 days. Gettysburg would be a bloodier battle later in the war, about a year and 3 months later, but the bloodiest battle to date would be Shiloh. Union forces now had a straight path to the Mississippi River, dead on. All they had to do was conquer Vicksburg and New Orleans, and they were good to go to control the Mississippi. So, New Orleans is going to be captured by Navy Admiral David Farragut. Farragut had been in the Navy for a number of years. He had earned his rank up to the rank of Admiral, and he takes New Orleans in April of 1862. Now, capturing New Orleans at the base of the Mississippi River was the key to controlling the entire flow of traffic on the Mississippi. And so all they had to do was capture the southern port of New Orleans and then control Vicksburg and some other key ports along the Mississippi, and they were going to cut the Confederacy in two, and that was one of their key goals to winning this war. Now, Vicksburg, major battle, happens from May 18th to July 4th. That's a long time. That's like 6 or 7 weeks of battling for one place. Well, the reason it takes so long, and notice July 4th, 1863, that's the day after Gettysburg ends. So we have two major northern victories within 24 hours of each other. So that's pretty huge. Union General Grant is going to go up against Confederate Lieutenant General John Pemberton. Now, Grant's first two assaults are going to be repelled away from Vicksburg. Vicksburg is essentially set up like a fortified or a fortress-type city. So Grant decides he's going to surround the city with his forces. He needs some reinforcements to do it. He can't do it by himself with just the army he has. They bring in Union reinforcements. They're able to basically surround the city, and they lay siege to the city for 7 weeks. They lay siege to Vicksburg, cut them off from food, from supplies, from ammunition, from any additional guns, any additional troops getting in, and they basically starve them out. Okay? Vicksburg surrenders on July 4th. It would be decades before the people of Vicksburg celebrate our Independence Day because this defeat in Vicksburg hurt so badly. They don't like July 4th very much there. Now, Sherman is going to lead the march to the sea. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman, he's assigned to capture Georgia, and he leads a march to the sea from Atlanta to Savannah. So Atlanta lays inland in Georgia, and Savannah is out on the coast. So he cuts a path that is 60 miles wide. He spreads his troops out 60 miles wide, and they just cut a path from Atlanta all the way east to Savannah. And the idea here is that they're going to destroy everything in their wake. So houses, factories, supply lines, railroads, crops, any type of agricultural resource, farming equipment and implements, livestock, anything they can do, they're going to destroy. They burn homes, they burn office buildings, anything that they come across, they're just going to mow down because they're not going to leave anything standing. Atlanta is reduced to rubble, as is Savannah. It hurts badly, okay? The idea here is to destroy the supply line so that nothing can get to the Confederate Army that would be of use to them, and it weakens the morale of Southern troops. You can imagine being a troop in the Confederate Army and hearing that your farm might have been burned by Sherman's army, or that your wife might have been in danger. This is going to hurt the morale big time. These guys just from the Confederate Army just want to get home after they hear this. This was total war. You throw all of your resources into fighting a war that you desperately want to win, and you destroy all of the resources of the enemy. Finally, we have the Wilderness Campaign, and that is going to be over the course of May 1864 to April 1865, where the war finally ends. Now, Union General Grant, so it takes over a year here, by the way, Union General Grant, the final Union General for the Army of the Potomac, Lincoln finally gets a guy in place that he likes. It was rumored that General Grant was a heavy drinker, and the reality was that he drank a lot of apple cider during the war, but Lincoln didn't care. He frankly said, I don't care what he drinks, maybe he can give some to my troops and make them fight harder. Union General Grant is going to take over. He's got about 100,000 men going into this campaign. Confederate General Lee is reduced to about 50,000. So this becomes a war of attrition. Who's going to run out of men first? The death toll here over the course of this year plus is huge. Okay? Now, the Union is going to lose more troops as far as numbers go, but the Confederacy is going to lose more of a percentage. The final battle that they fight, big one, is called Cold Harbor, and this one is where Grant gets the name Grant the Butcher, because he sends his troops into what is deemed to be probably a suicidal mission, and his troops kind of nickname him Grant the Butcher as a result. But Grant had some chutzpah, so he wanted to win the war at all costs, and he proves that to be true. Lincoln would only accept a surrender from the South. The South was willing to wheel and deal. They wanted to be able to back out of this war, to call a peace, to have a truce, as long as the Confederacy could remain the Confederacy. And Lincoln said, no dice. This is not going to work for us. You will either surrender unconditionally, where you come back into this country as one country, the United States of America, or we're not dealing. There is no, deal on the table. It's a surrender or nothing. Okay? So Lee finally waves the white flag, and he and Grant meet at Appomattox Courthouse, where they agree to terms of surrender. Grant is very kind to Lee, allowing the Southern troops to keep their guns, keep their horses, to return home. He does not arrest anyone for crimes against the United States, which is highly unusual. When you go to war, you usually arrest the commanding officers and so forth when in the peace, especially when it's a treasonous type war. But this doesn't happen at Appomattox. Lee is able to ride away on his horse. The Union soldiers that watch him ride away actually tip their hats to him and salute him as he rides away because they had so much respect for him. So Appomattox Courthouse is where the surrender takes place, and the war on April 4th, 1865 is over.